Hey, what's up everybody? I have a webcomic tutorial up. Now, I just wanted to go ahead and let everybody know this is my first video doing something like this, so if I sound nervous, just bear with me. I recorded a video of myself making my webcomic Afro Brainbuster. This is, I believe, is page 6 of chapter 3. So I'm going to be sort of narrating through while I go along and just show you the process of how I make my pages. So starting off, I'm going to be creating guides to go over the horrible line art that I did when I scanned my photos in. Normally when I make my pages, I'll draw them out just on a regular sketch pad and just scan them into the computer and work on them in Photoshop. And right now I'm correcting the lines that I made to outline my panels. And as I can see looking at the rulers now, when I did them in my sketch pad, I was horribly off. So apparently I'm not good at using a ruler as good as I thought I was, but just never mind that for now. Going ahead and going through each panel, have one more. And for the purposes of this too, when I actually start coloring the page, I'm only going to work on the first panel. I'll sort of speed through the rest of it and show y'all the finished product in the end. But I just wanted to show the product, or the process of how I get each panel done, or how I get each page done. How I color panel 1 is pretty much how I work on it for the entire page. So yeah, I'll just hurry through that after I finish that first one and just show you how it looks. And the way I start off is I go ahead and do the lines for each panel. Now what I'm doing right now, I'm using the pen tool in Photoshop to go ahead and outline this first panel, and go ahead and use the stroke path to make sure it's the right brush shots too. But go ahead and use the stroke path and the pen tool to go ahead and highlight the panel. For those of you that's using Photoshop Elements, I will be using just the regular old pencil tool on the second panel and beyond for that, because I know the pen tool is not in Photoshop Elements. And so for that, a trick that I use, it's not really a trick, but it's just a little shortcut, just to click on one area of the panel that I need. So click in the top left hand corner and click once, hold shift and click in the bottom left one, and then hold shift and click in the bottom right one, and so on and so forth to create that square. And then I just use the magic wand tool to make sure when I select outside of the boxes that those two panels are there as they should be. I can't actually draw inside of them if I select outside the boxes. So my lines are lined up correctly. Here we go, holding shift, clicking in the bottom left again, clicking the bottom right, clicking the top right, click in the top right. I don't know what I'm doing there. Okay, I must have messed up. I guess my lines wasn't lined up correctly. Once again, click in the top left, click in the bottom left, holding shift again and clicking in the bottom right, holding shift and clicking in the top right, and holding shift and clicking in the top left. Alright, and there's my other line. Once again, use the magic wand tool. The box is highlighted correctly. Go ahead and move to the bottom one. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I think the magic wand tool also is not in Photoshop Elements. It's just not necessarily a deal breaker. It does make things a lot easier because it only selects what you need to be selected, but I believe the quick selection tool can work in a similar fashion. I'm not necessarily sure. It's been quite a while since I've used Photoshop Elements. Hell, what I'm using right now is actually Photoshop CS4. I don't even know what the newest version of Photoshop out there is right now. I believe it's CS6 or 7. I'm not even sure. I'm sure somebody will let me know if I'm wrong or not. Alright, now I have my panels highlighted, so now what I'm going to work on is the top left panel where Afro Brainbuster is. which now will probably also be a nice time to let everyone know that I am working on the page 6 for Afro Brainbuster. Once again, I got a link to the description for my comic. Go ahead and check it out if you want to after watching this video. Alright, now I'm scrolling back up, and I'm about to work on that Brainbuster panel to the left there. And for this, I'm going to go ahead and do the line art for that panel, and then I'm going to color it in, and then I'm going to do all the detail and highlights and shadows that I need to in that panel. And that'll pretty much be my process. After that, then I'll do the text for that particular panel, whatever it may be, if I have it or not, and I usually go on from there. But for this, the purposes of this video, I'm only going to do this one panel. It'll pretty much be rinse and repeat for the rest of the page, so I'll just skip through that. But I'll show you how I at least get one panel done, so you'll have somewhat of an idea of how I come up with my panels and pages. Sometime soon, hopefully in the next week or so, I'll also do another tutorial on my speed paintings, just to show y'all how I do those as well. It's pretty much the same process, I just don't have to worry about panel layouts and such. It's probably be slightly different, but for the most part it'll be the same. Alright, go ahead and highlight in the mouth here. And I typically like to use brush size of about 2. Probably for the majority of my pages, that's the size of brush that I have. And it's usually in the, let's see, it'll probably be 300 pixels that I'm working with. If you go to image in Photoshop and then do image size, you can check the resolution. And yeah, my pages are usually at a resolution of about 300 pixels, so yeah. Go ahead and working on the eyeballs now. And I think he may be slightly cockeyed in this page. I'm not sure. Yeah, I believe he is. Okay, I must have sensed something was wrong with it when I made it. Oh my god, and he looks out of his mind now. He actually looks more smashed than he did in the original one, but in any event, and just roll with it. And because the purposes of me doing this tutorial, I'm trying my hardest to actually draw with my tablet. It's such a frustrating process with me, but I do it as best I can. I'm trying not to use the pen tool as a crutch. It's not as bad, but it takes some getting used to. I want to get to the point where me using the tablet is as easy as using like a actual pencil on paper. It's the hand-eye coordination of using the computer is really bothering me, but alright, go ahead and highlighting his sideburns. From here, I believe I'm going to go ahead and do his ears and then his jawline, so I'll have selectable pieces to make it easier to color from there. Go ahead and doing, yeah, that's what I figured. Go ahead and highlighting the jaw. Let's see how many times I erase and go back. Alright, there we go. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and do the jaw. The reason why I'm doing the jaw now is so that once I have that inside part of the face from the sideburns and the hairline and the jaw, I can select inside the face and go ahead and color that in without having to worry about coloring outside the lines or anything like that with the magic wand tool. It just makes it easier for myself. Alright, do this left ear. And I also like this because I can also correct any imperfections that I did while I was actually drawing the page, so it's a plus. Alright, and then using the magic wand tool, I select outside of the lines that I just drew so that I don't interfere with the face for the rest of the drawing. And I'll go ahead and get his afro in. Look at that afro. Jesus Christ. Alright, getting the neckline in. So now I should be able to select the afro. Well, I haven't done the other side yet, but I should be able to select the afro. And once again, there's that click, hold, shift again. Click, hold, shift. There we go. If I click inside the afro, once I finish this right side of it here, I'll click it and I'll be able to color the inside of the afro using the magic wand tool. Once I click inside the fro and color it in, I won't have to worry about coloring outside of the lines that I just drew for myself, so it makes it easier. And deselect that, use the magic wand, click outside of his fro, and as you can see now I can draw the backpack and I won't have to worry about drawing in the lines that I've already drawn. Once again, the benefits of using the magic wand tool. Alright, I'm getting these lines in straight as I possibly can. I'm actually pretty proud of myself for having the lines this crisp, I should say, using the actual pen tool, the pencil tool, as opposed to using the pen tool to do the lines for me. In which I don't always use the pen tool, just the majority of the time. It makes things so much easier and it goes so quicker, especially times when I'm needing to get multiple pages done in a day and I don't really have a lot of time. Alright, now I'm going ahead and getting ready to select the line art and lock that so that I'll no longer really draw inside of the lines to screw anything up for the rest of that particular layer on the right side of the screen there. So yeah, I've locked my line art layer that I just drew in. So for the rest of this drawing, I won't have to worry about coloring in on anything that I've already drawn. Now what I'm doing is, that's a page that I already have done. I'm going to bring that page out and I'll be using the eyedropper tool to sort of pick the colors off of that page to help color this particular one. And I've already made a new layer under my line art layer for my page, so I'll be able to color on a separate layer from the one that I already have. And also, maybe this is just a thing for me, but I like to color underneath the layer of my line art just to make things better. And as you can see here, I just try using the quick selection tool, and it may not work exactly the same way that the magic wand tool does, but it's pretty close. You'll be able to manage. You'll probably have to do a tad bit more editing to sort of clean up your pages, but it works pretty similar to the magic wand tool. So those are for those of you that are using Photoshop Elements. Now going back here and clicking the line art and selecting all the pages with his hair. Selecting the color of his hair from the other page that I have left using the eyedropper tool. Once again, selecting the hair. I'm using a brush big enough so that I can speed this up some. Alright, coloring the hair in. And as you can see with the hair selected, and I didn't select that bottom part of the hair either. Good thing I caught that. But selecting the pieces of the hair now, I can go ahead and color it in and not have to worry about coloring parts of the picture that I don't want to color. Now, if you want to make this even quicker and even easier, you can just select the pieces that you need to color, if it's all the same color, and just fill it in using the fill tool to make it even easier. You won't have to sit there and color like I'm doing right now. But like I say, I just try to get used to actually using the tablet pen as opposed to using the tools all the time as a crutch. Alright, so I pretty much have his skin blocked in as well. I must have found a problem somewhere. Okay, just adding detail to the neckline of his jumpsuit. So I went back and unlocked the layer that I had the line art in, and I'm going back on the line art and finishing the neckline. Alright, Alright, lock the layer back. A little ear detail. Look at me paying attention to details in this picture. Alright, make sure it's the other ear. Alright, unlock the line art layer, go back. Make sure I save. Oh my god, and I have not been saving as nearly as much as I probably should have drawn. Advice to anybody who's doing any type of digital painting or webcomics or anything of the such in Photoshop or any program for that matter, please make sure that you save fairly often. If your computer is anything like mine, it will crash or a program will shut down for absolutely no reason at random, and nothing pisses me off more than having just a shit ton of work done and going back and watching all of it just get erased because the program's crashed for nothing. So please make sure that you're saving often. Alright, now I'm selecting the color from the jumpsuit on the other page. I'm coming back and coloring that in. And for anybody who's wondering, the actual comic Afro Brainbuster, since I'm drawing this right now, it's actually about the title character, of course, being Afro, his journey to becoming the world heavyweight champion. He's trying to become the best professional wrestler in the world, and he's trying to do it with the one wrestling technique that he knows. Let you guess as to what wrestling move that is. But his ultimate goal is to become the world champion, and things may not be as easy as he would like them to be. Alright, just to point out right now, I selected the eyes just now, and I went ahead and colored the eyes, and I believe the eyes and teeth in white. The reasoning for that is because, and this is just me, but while I'm drawing, you might be able to see it on occasion, it'll look like these weird white lines are showing in between the line art and the color of your drawing. It really bothers me, so what I like to do is I color everything that needs to be white in the drawing, and to the right where the background layer is, and I'll probably do it at the end of the video, I fill that in completely black so that those little white lines in between everything don't show up. And once you finalize your picture, save it as a JPEG or a TIFF, however you're going to save it, those lines will probably go away, but it just bothers me while I'm drawing. Okay, now I've created another layer on top of my color layer, and I'm using the brush tool instead of the pencil tool now to do my shadows and highlights. The way that I normally do this is I select the brush tool and I turn the opacity down to about 10%. I typically do it anywhere between like 5 to 15%. I just use 10 because it's a happy medium in between the two. And I'll go ahead and do my shadows and highlights for the rest of the drawing. And because I don't put as much detail into my, or not say as much detail, but as much, well, yeah, to be quite honest, as much detail into some of the shading and highlights, especially the highlights of my comic, as much as I would on a speed painting, I probably won't have as much highlights other than like hair and little bits of clothing that I would for a regular drawing. That's why I plan on doing the speed painting one pretty soon, just to show you how I go balls out and color some of these photos that I do. Alright. Oh my god, he looks drunk as shit right now, but in any event, it's Afro Brainbuster, people. Alright, now I'm doing the shadows on the sides of the face. Really sloppy line there. Okay, I erased that good. Much better. And I guess that one wasn't good enough for me either. Oh my god, how many times am I going to erase it? That line was pretty good. Okay. And I'm doing the shadow on the right side of the face for this intoxicated wrestler right now. And going ahead and doing bits of the shadow on the bodysuit. And like I said, I typically just use an opacity for the brush tool of about 10%. If it's something where I know it's going to be like a really intense or intensely dark part of the drawing or anything, I'll go ahead and turn the intensity up to about maybe 50% and go from there. But for the most part, it's only at about 10, and I go with that for a while. Alright, now I'm going ahead and doing the hair. See, for the hair, considering how dark it is, I probably would have been best just using an opacity of 50 and getting it out in one shot, but I guess for the purposes of this tutorial, I'm going to go ahead and highlight exactly what I'm coloring there, touching up part of the shadows that I have for his hair down at the bottom. I cannot get over how crazy I made his eyes look in this page, but in any event. Alright. Alright, going ahead and doing some highlights. And it's basically a highlight, so I probably should have just left it there. Alright, now I'm going to work on what little bit of the backpack is showing, getting ready to do the shadows in there. Select the nose. And get the shadows in on the opposite side of the straps there. And once again, I can't illustrate this enough, but that magic wand tool certainly helps wonders in Photoshop. At least for me, it is a definite lifesaver. The ability and the freedom to color without having to worry about meticulously staying inside the lines at every waking moment is such a blessing. Alright. Going ahead and getting the other side in. I'm just going to go ahead and just do some background or ambient shadowing. I'm sure I just used that word wrong, but screw it. Just to get a bit of the background so if he's not just standing there in some type of a brown void, which I guess it kind of still looks that way anyways. But just doing a little bit of shadowing in the background. And that's that first panel. And now I'll just go ahead and fill in text. Save from there. Alright. I'm taking the liberty now, so I must be showing off just because I'm doing a tutorial of naming my layers. That's a good habit to have as well, but normally I don't do it and it would just plow ahead without naming them. But yeah, it makes for keeping your brain focused later to make sure you have everything labeled what you need it to be labeled, so it's easier to find certain layers after a while. You'll really get pissed off having to search for something and continuously seeing layer 1, layer 2, layer 3, layer 4 down the line. Okay, so now I'm putting the text in. I've created a folder on the side, and inside of that folder I created another text layer. You don't need to use folders if you don't want to. You can just create text. The text will actually show as what you've written it. That'll be the name of the layer pretty much. So if you want to use folders or different subfolders, you can. That's what I typically do, but it's not a must here. But I'm going ahead and getting the text in. So So I need to get through them to get to the champ, huh? Alright. And underneath that text layer, I've created another layer and use this tool that I cannot remember the name of at the moment. It really escapes me. The elliptical marquee tool should be where the rectangular marquee tool is. Can't believe I had to actually look that up for a second. And I filled in the marquee. I'm redoing it again. Okay, I'm doing it instead of making a big oval around the text, which sometimes it'll work. It depends on what you're trying to do. If it's taking up too much space, I'll just create marquees around the actual lines of text itself, as I'm doing right now. And then I'll just fill this in white. Okay, get that last line in. Alright. Still not perfect, but it'll do. Now fill that last bit in with white. And now what I've done is I've selected the polygonal lasso tool, and I'm going ahead and making the line for the speech bubble pointing towards the mouth. And that's the key to always, if you're making a comic, to make the speech bubble head towards the mouth. You don't want the speech bubble pointing to somebody's forehead or the neck or anything like that. They're not talking from those areas of the body, they're talking from the mouth, so make sure it's pointed in that direction. Small little tip. I'm no expert, but alright. Now what I just did is I selected the layer and then blending options, right clicking on the layer and then blending options, selected stroke down at the bottom to create a black line around the speech bubble. Just to highlight it, to give you some difference in the lines there. Alright, so that's my first panel. And from here I'm going to go ahead and show my details for the rest of the pictures, and then I'll show you the finished product at the end. But that's my tutorial, and thank you very much for checking it out. Okay, now here's the finished product of my page here. Now I got all the panels and the text that I need to squeezed into my picture. Now earlier I talked about the little faint white lines that you can see in between the drawing that looks really irritating, and I explained how I colored in the inside of the eyes and the teeth and the mouth just to make it white. And my reasoning for that is, once I make it black on that bottom background layer that you can see to the right, see all those white lines and specks that's inside, it's really irritating to me. If it bothers you too and you just want to get it out of the picture itself, I just highlight the entire picture black, and there you are. You don't see it anymore. Now, if you actually want the outside layers of your picture to be white, just use the line art tool, select inside on that background panel tool and select inside of the panels itself and color in black. It won't show up on any of the layers that's over top, and you'll still be able to get those lines out and leave the rest of the background as white. Basically, you just want to be able to get those colors out of the drawing itself. And it looks like I forgot to color his teeth in white, so going back and getting that repaired. It's like somebody knocked the teeth out of his mouth. Alright, selecting those. But basically what I mean, to make sure I didn't confuse any of you guys, is the weird white lines that were showing up in the actual picture itself. Just go inside all the square panels that you have and color that in black so that it doesn't show up, leaving the rest of it white if you still want to, or just making the entire background black like I just did. And it's not a major issue if you want to bypass it all. Once you actually make it into a JPEG or a TIFF or whatever, it's not really going to show up. But while drawing, it'll really screw with your eyes. It does with me. It bothers the hell out of me, so I fixed that. But in any event, this is my page. This will be page 8 in chapter 3 of Afro Brainbuster. I hope at least some of this was helpful to somebody out there. If I helped at least one person, that's all I really care about. So I'll be doing more of these, and I'll probably have a digital painting tutorial coming up soon. So go ahead, check my links out in the description, and I'll see you all later. Thanks again.